Alright guys, what do we have here? The Reate Horiozon D in M390. I'll tell you guys prior to, and before I forget, this was sent to me on loan from Ryan Cloonan from the EDC Brotherhood group on Facebook. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you sending it along. I know I've had it for a while now. I will get it back to you this week. This is the second Reate that was sent to me when Josh picked up the K1, so we could get an idea how the Reate M390 did. Ryan offered to send this. I'm not sure what he was running it at before, but he did reprofile it to 15 degrees per side. And as you can see by the bevel, it is a little thick behind the edge, but we'll talk about that after we watch the cutting. So let's go ahead and cut with it, and then we'll talk about this thing. To the cutting. Alright, now that you saw the cutting, let's go ahead and talk about how it did, and then we'll talk about some information or lack of information I was able to find out about this. So Ryan had sharpened it the first time, and I went ahead and tested it. And the first time I got 247 feet fine edge and 354 feet working edge. Yes, I know. Some of you are going, wait a minute. The K1 didn't do close to that. And you'd be exactly right. The K1 didn't even come close to this. So I went ahead and sharpened it and tested it again. And the second test, I got 245.3 feet fine edge and 368 feet working edge. At that point, I too was wondering what was going on. All I'd done was cut with this one and the K1. So I sent them off to get an HRC on them to see what was going on. Now I am going to talk about it in this video instead of the video about all the M390 that you guys will see later, because there were some huge differences between this Horiozon D and the K1 in sharpening and cutting. This sharpens up really nice, super easy to deburr, no problems whatsoever with this. Now the K1 that I've since given back to Josh, and Josh and I talked about it, that couldn't be any further from what I just said. That K1 did not want to come up very nice, and to make matters even worse, it was extremely hard to deburr. It actually ended up getting extra stropping, and I had to use the 16 micron CBN just to get the burr to come off. And keep in mind, like when I sharpen these for doing testing, I don't just do one knife here, one knife there. I'll do a dozen, 15 knives at a time. And out of all the ones that I did when I did the Horiozon D and the K1 was the only one that gave me any trouble deburring. So I'd heard some different things about how Reate, and they weren't confirmed, how Reate maybe wet grinds, different things that Reate do to get what they got from this. So as you can see, this was also tested, and it is also 60 HRC. And that's where I was like, whoa, what do you mean it's also 60 HRC and it's doing this well? So I contacted Reate, and they did get back to me. I asked them a lot of questions. I tried to ask questions that I hoped they would answer, that they wouldn't be giving away maybe some stuff I don't know, maybe some proprietary information they didn't want to give away. But of all the things I asked them, all they told me was they hand grind each blade, and that's what makes them unique. And thanks for your support. That was the whole email. That's it. So I can't tell you guys why. I don't know what Reate does. They didn't give me any answers to whether or not they wet grind, and anything special they do to these during the heat treat process. I don't know. Is this one knife a fluke, like the Rat 1 and D2 that did so much better than all the other D2? I don't know. What I do know is that burr not coming off on the K1 let me know that there is a whole lot of retained austenite in that other M390, and I'm sure that's a big reason why it did as poorly as it did. This is a Horiozon D. I had no idea, but seeing this in pictures when Ryan sent me pictures, when I got it, I instantly liked this knife, and I still like it. This thing cut awesome, even being thick behind the edge. You know, I'm like everybody else. I don't want something really thick behind the edge, but it presented zero issues for me. It's got a nice stout blade stock. That's another thing we can talk about too. Since this is thicker behind the edge like that, I tried to ask if they did some primary grinding before heat treat, and maybe that's why this one did so much better at 60 HRC, because this is 30, I don't remember exactly, just know it's over 30 thousandths. It was either 32 or 34 thousandths behind the edge at 15 degrees per side. Which means if they did do some grinding prior to heat treat, they did very little grinding after heat treat. I talked with some people who are knife makers and said that it's safe to go down to around 40 thousandths thick before heat treat. Now the K1, that was 18 thousandths behind the edge after I'd sharpened it a few times, so half as thick. So definitely a lot more grinding, besides the fact that it had retained austenite. Obviously, I don't know if it got overheated. They did admit to hand grinding each individual blade. We don't know if someone burned, you know, overheated that M390 in the K1. What I do know is this did considerably better. That's all I have for it right now. I'm going to do some more research, and perhaps we'll talk about it in the video of all of these that you guys will see here coming up probably in the next 2 weeks or so. I figure there's no way to put that video out without spoiling the results of other knives. So I'm going to have to post those first, and then we'll come back and be able to talk about all of them together. The differences in cutting, sharpening, and what the Rockwell was on each. So that's all I have for this. As always, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.